Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome to Conversations on Care, our Facebook talk show, bringing together service providers, our clients, our caregivers, all to help families better understand and cope with aging parents with chronic care needs. My name is Julie Collada, and I'm the founder and president of Open Arms Solutions, a senior home care agency serving the Chicagoland area, specializing in holistic, uh, inspired chronic care. It's our mission to help our families through the journey of aging and to know that your loved one is living their best life possible. If you find these dialogues helpful, and we really hope you do, please give us a like and a share so that we can reach more people. And if you have any questions on topics you'd like to learn more about, write them in the uh, chat box or send us an email because we'd like to get more input from about topics that are important to everyone. So I'm so happy today that my friend Jacqueline Boyd is with us, founder and owner of the Care Plan. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the Care Plan. I've had the privilege of knowing Jacqueline. Jacqueline, I was thinking about this. I think I did first meet you when we had a joint client we were caring for, a very challenging case. And you were with a home care company and you were a care manager. And immediately we were working on jointly how we could best take care of this person. And I immediately knew you were someone that I wanted to stay connected with because you can tell when people authentically care about people and want to do the right thing for people. And you stood out as that kind of person. And and that was, I don't even know how many years ago that was, but a long time ago.
Think at least 10. I think
Isn't
it's
that it?
remarkable.
I think that is pretty remarkable. So here we are, still connected, which I'm thrilled about. Our topic today is reimagining how you age, and I've had the privilege of hearing Jacqueline speak on all sorts of different topics that she's passionate about. Um, I'd like to read your bio so everyone could hear a little bit more about you, and that is Jacqueline brings passion and expertise to the field of aging and the LGBTQ plus advocacy. A dynamic speaker, facilitator, and entrepreneur, Jacqueline is the owner of the Care Plan. The Care Plan, and you can see the Care Plan. I believe we've got yes, we do, the website up on our chat, is the country's first LGBTQ plus centered care management company. The Care Plan's innovative model of directed care provides advocacy, care navigation, and advanced planning for successful aging experiences. As part of the Care Plan's leadership, Jacqueline has consulted with national and local organizations such as SAGE, Howard Brown Health Centers, and AIDS Foundation Chicago to enhance services offered to the LGBTQ plus older adults. So I could go on, but we have a lot to talk about here, and so thrilled again to have you here. Before we get into this whole reimagine aging topic, Jacqueline, I'd love to ask our guests, how did you get here? And we talked about 10 years ago. You started was that your first when you worked at Home Instead? So how did you enter this field? Tell us about that.
So I was incredibly blessed because when I was 18, I was in school at Loyola and wanted to learn how, not just, I was studying psychology, and so I was interested in that, but wanted to know physically if someone I love was sick, was aging, needed help, how could I actually help them, in at home or be physical support. So, I'm a person of balance, so I appreciated the learning I was doing, but I wanted to know the practical side of what does care look like. So I actually started out as a CNA, a certified nursing assistant. I worked in nursing homes and geriatric and psychiatric facilities, and I'm so grateful for that grounding because there is no substitute for good care. When people are vulnerable, when people are in pain, uncomfortable, unsure. That's when you need somebody to show up that is really going to make you feel comforted. And so I learned just the value of the work that family caregivers are doing every day, that immigrants and folks who are trying to get a foothold in the healthcare industry are doing every day. And that work is just so valuable. So the work that you all do at Open Arms, I will forever have a soft spot in my heart for. And then I did work for a home care agency for about 12 years, and there, I was really inspired by to contribute to the field of aging in a different way, because I think anybody watching this understands how hard it is just to get basic information. It's like once you reach that point where you need help or where you're in a healthcare crisis as an older adult, it is difficult to find accurate information and to have a sense of how to make informed decisions because you're in a whole new industry. What's the difference between independent living and assisted living? How do you know what of the 800 caregiving agencies in the state of Illinois is the right one for you? How do you plan and get your advanced directives in place? So I really, in the work you do and the work I was doing at the time, you see families in crisis. And so I felt really strongly that it didn't have to be that way, because aging is one of the most natural things we're going to have the honor to do. So why not plan for it in the same way we plan for retirement, and really think through these questions so you're not making those decisions from a hospital bed. So
Yeah.
that was what really inspired me was, if we give in to ageism and the idea that, none of us are going to get older and youth is best, we miss the opportunity to really choose how we want to age, who we want around us, where we want to live, and how we can have fun and quality of life through end of life. So that's what inspired me.
Oh, and I so appreciate all of that. And I think, so for many of us, and absolutely myself included, that are not already nurses or social workers that got introduced to this area through education, very similar story to mine. I think you've heard it, and that is that I life was going along splendidly. I had two small children. I had a business, and my dad had passed away, but my mom was incredibly independent and vibrant and an amazing woman. And then until an event happened, and she wasn't, and so we were not prepared, like most families, um, because we hadn't had these conversations and we didn't do planning. And so, and you and I see so many families like that, and we are both inspired to educate and provide resources so that doesn't happen to other people. Because as you just said, it doesn't have to happen to other people. So, well said. So, I think you already answered this, but let's just make sure. So, specifically, you started the care plan. And when did you start the care plan?
So we launched in fall of 2015. So we are 6 years old as of today.
Congratulations. Wow.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's been an honor and a pleasure, and we just really appreciate the opportunity to help educate and guide the families we serve, to make life a little bit easier in tough times.
That's great. And what you do is just so people, some people may not really understand what you do. I'm going to describe, well, and then you're going to please fill in. Your team is your care planner. So you provide one-on-one assessment and counseling. Sometimes it's called geriatric care management. Sometimes it's called care management, but you take a holistic view of an individual and their resources and families, and then play all sorts of different roles, right? Is that correct, Jacqueline, in helping them?
Yes, absolutely. So, the language around the industry it can often feel alienating. And so, geriatric care management never really captured who we serve, because, we serve people of all identities, all income levels, all backgrounds. We specialize in LGBTQ plus communities. So we're the only company in the country that focuses on the needs of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender elders. And what that means is that our seniors actually are younger. They might not resonate with geriatric because, we see a higher incidence of health issues at younger ages. So we work with anybody over the age of 18. So we call what we do care navigation. It definitely is, if you've heard care management, patient advocacy, it's all similar terrain. We just like the term care navigation because we want to be alongside our clients in the journey. Some people use us just for consulting, right? Just to say, hey, we're in this tough situation and we want to plan for the best outcome. And other clients we see more regularly. We're in and out of the home weekly, coordinating caregivers, managing household maintenance, getting people to and from appointments, and take a more active role. So, care management, I find, is a really good kind of objective viewpoint for families about planning for the right level of care and understanding all the resources available.
Great. That's a great explanation. Thank you for that. So, our topic, let's dive into our topic.
Yeah.
Our topic is what what does it mean to reimagine aging?
I first have to say thank you for having me today because often when I'm speaking I'm training, and it's so exciting to be able to talk about ideas and talk about vision, because that's what reimagining aging is to me. Oftentimes the families I work with, they come to us in a place of crisis, right? There's been that medical incident, that thing that has gone wrong, and you're dealing with a lot of logistics and the emotional grief and pain of trying to find your way through and feeling like you don't have the right answer. So, reimagining aging for me is about embracing aging. It's about saying, hey, retirement is great, but what about, that fourth quarter of life? What about when you start to have maybe chronic illness or memory loss? How can you make decisions now to feel connected? Because most seniors struggle from loneliness and isolation. And that's incredibly true in LGBTQ plus communities as well, because they're 3 and 4 times less likely to have children. So I like to think about, how can we, as vibrant, thriving adults, extend that through end of life. And so when we work with our clients, it really is about who are you as a person, what's important to you, who's in your network, who are the people that are in your close circle, and how can we break down these barriers that keep us from talking about our health with those that we love and who are closest to us, so that you can actually be closer in that fourth quarter of life rather than, oh, we're disconnected. I haven't talked to that person. I don't want to be a burden on my loved one. It's kind of like, let's get the team together earlier on and be really clear about how we want to age, and take it into our own hands instead of feeling like you're kind of on the conveyor belt of hospital, rehab, home. There's other options, and humans are endlessly creative and we can do better.
That's great. It's a um, I so appreciate the inspiration and the creativity and the need. The need is just enormous. Um, can you give us some examples of people who have aged creatively? What does that look like?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I'll start with myself because I think, in this industry, when you see what people go through, it really, for many of us, is clarifying about what we want for ourselves. So for me, I have chosen to be incredibly clear and consistent with my chosen family, the people that, I'm going to be aging with. And so we talk annually about different elements of our aging, and we're planning to retire together in some shape or form and are talking about those pathways and those options now. And we're all in our 30s and 40s. I, for example, have my powers of attorney done, and I'm in my late 30s. It's something everyone should have, so that you have those foundational pieces in place and then can really dream about, well, how do I want this to look? So, my vision for myself, because I have a lot of family of origin, I have a lot of nieces, nephews,
Jackie, for some reason, we just lost your audio.
Okay, can you see
Oh,
me?
you're back. You're
Oh,
back.
thank you. So for me, it starts at home, thinking about my own aging. I'm a person that likes to travel, and I want the people I love and care about to feel that they have access to community. So I'm planning on having a few different properties where anyone in my circle can come convalesce, can be receiving care, can be in community with other people that are also aging, so that, there's nothing formal, but you have the invitation. So if I have a friend who has a fall, they don't have to be rehabbing by themselves. They can come to my home, and we'll have caregivers that can support them and have a community of people that can bring that emotional element. So that's my vision for my aging. I have amazing clients that are just innovating left, right, and center. There's a woman that I've worked with for many years who is lesbian identified, and she's part of an amazing community of lesbian activists. And so she has, for the last 10 years, been working with her close group of friends to basically do a do it yourself assisted living.
Hmm.
So she's planning on purchasing a property here in the Chicagoland area, a six flat building where she and her closest friends can each have an apartment so they have that privacy, but they can support each other emotionally with advocacy, go to appointments together, have dinners together, listen to music, have fun, um, no matter what stage the person's needs are at. So I get really inspired by those visions, but also caution people that it's not something that's going to happen on accident. A lot of us have the golden girls in mind when we think
Mhm.
about getting older, but we don't
Mhm.
know what happens, when Sophia or Dorothy has a fall or has an infection or gets Parkinson's. That's where the seriousness of what is our real commitment to each other and how are we going to support each other long term. I think people also in reimagining aging are thinking about smaller communities. We're seeing a lot of smaller communities and intergenerational communities arising. One of my favorite organizations is Home, Housing Opportunities and Maintenance for the Elderly. They specialize in intergenerational housing for low income seniors. And they have a really great kind of hybrid model where they have housing that is called the Good Life, where it's not quite assisted living, but it's some assistance. And it's done by resident assistants that live on the floor. So you have people that really have the opportunity to build long-term relationships. The resident assistants make meals, help with housekeeping, help with orientation, there's activities. But
Mhm.
again, it's more of a communal environment. So those are just some of the ideas around reimagining aging that I wanted to lift up today. But I really encourage anybody who's watching this to approach aging from a place of practicality. We really think about it as project managers. There are elements that we all need to think about: finances, legal protection, medical providers, all of that.
Mhm.
But the magic and the value of quality of life is none of those things. It's who you spend your time with, how you feel about yourself, and if you're being cognitively stimulated. So making sure that you're looking to that fourth quarter, planning thoughtfully and informing your loved ones and inviting them to the table too. You're just going to have a much better experience if you have some support around that.
I
So I would
think that
encourage.
is, I think that is incredibly important. And you and I see examples, and of what happens when people don't, and when people don't have those communications and don't um, really very thoughtfully and proactively plan. And most people don't. Um, it's uh, I'm inspired by what you're doing. I think it's fantastic. You focus on LGBTQ plus and diverse communities. what are some of the challenges and strengths of these communities as they age? You touched on them as people age, but there's some, we all have those. Everyone on this planet has challenges as we age that we all, if we imagine our future, can live a much better fourth quarter, as you put it, of our lives. But specifically, what are some examples of some additional challenges that this community has?
So the challenges for LGBTQ elders, I think, primarily is that, many of them weren't expecting to get older, and the world has not typically been safe in their lifetime to age out. So we see that almost 80% of lesbian, gay, and bisexual and trans elders go back in the closet when they enter senior care, not because of the staff, but because they're afraid of how they're going to be treated.
Mm.
And that's reasonable. I've had clients that have experienced verbal and physical harassment from other residents. I have a client right now who is caring for her partner in the hospital, and a chaplain came in and basically told her that they needed to turn away from their lifestyle and go to God. These are real, and they're Christians, so they're deeply religious, spiritual people. And it just was such a personal affront that in this time of grief and processing and trying to make medical decisions for the person you love the most in the world, that you are being verbally harassed and targeted in a place that should be safe. And that's why I do the work I do around advocacy, because every senior deserves dignity and quality of life. And our industry typically has not seen the different needs that LGBTQ elders have, that Black and Brown elders have, that immigrants elders have. So it's time that we address the way that our nation is aging and the diverse elders that we have and are trying to serve and better meet those needs. So I think a lot of what LGBTQ elders are dealing with are similar to what non-LGBT elders are dealing with, right? The isolation, concerns about money, who will care for them. But the depth of that I find tends to be deeper because LGBTQ elders are 3 and 4 times less likely to have children.
Yeah, I remember the first time I heard you speak about this topic. It was just that was just a aha to me. It and all of this area was like so many of us. We get focused on different things in our lives, and you bring a spotlight to things that I know I never really considered. Certainly, the whole topic of certainly I understand the bias and prejudice people can bring, which is really unfortunate. As human beings, we're flawed, and unfortunately, those things come out. And so that wasn't a surprise to me. But to think about the reality that many, in these communities don't expect to age, and the reality that many of them don't have children. So it's a whole different dynamic that they're faced with, and a whole different set of challenges.
Yep,
There's a viewer question I want to make sure we get to.
great.
The question is, how do you help families who have a close group of friends as well as family members that want to be involved?
We love chosen family. We love chosen family. And that's one of the strengths that LGBTQ plus folks bring to the table is that oftentimes chosen family is who shows up or who wants to be involved. So what we do is we work with our clients to understand who's in your circle of trust, who is your support system, and what role do you want them to play, right? That's part of reimagining aging as well, is you get to say, oh, my best friend is a great cook, but she can't make medical decisions for me. I want her to bring me food if I'm rehabbing or not feeling well, but I want my sister, who's a nurse, to be my power of attorney so she can really make those decisions. So the way we think about it is really as a support system and figuring out what skills do people have, how can they best show up, skills and capacity, right? Because you might have people in your life that want to help but don't know how. So we work with, whatever the support system looks like, that's who we want to connect with and be sure is informed and is at the table with our clients.
Okay,
Great
that's
question.
great. That's great. Um, and it's so important and it makes sense. Uh, if are there some resources, and I'd love to make sure that we have time to have you discuss this. Are there resources you can recommend for people who want to take control of their aging? Where do they
Absolutely.
go?
Absolutely. And we have our behind the scenes person, Sarah, who is doing a lot of amazing work. Sarah, I just emailed you a PDF of the Prepare to Care guide from AARP. This is one of my favorite go-to tools for people that are either planning ahead or are in the midst of a caregiving crisis and are trying to just keep everything organized. This Prepare to Care guide is available in multiple languages. They have specialties for LGBTQ plus folks, so you can get copies sent to you. It's comprehensive, it's really practical, and I think they did a great job. So that is a starting place, I would say. Obviously, reach out to Open Arms, reach out to the care plan. We are happy to help and provide you additional resources as well. I have an Instagram live that I do every Tuesday night at 5 o'clock. We'll be back in September, and we talk through these issues around aging from this place of possibility, right? That we are consumers of healthcare, and we should be able to take a little bit more control in how our fourth quarter of life looks. So, those are some of the resources, but I would suggest continue learning. Most of the work that we have to do around preparing for aging is internal. It's that part of ourselves that says, don't think about getting older, or talking about death and dying is scary, or, I lost my loved one and it was really painful and traumatizing. We all have internal things that we need to heal from, move through, to be able to look at aging as as a time of possibility, and as a time that we can have an experience of our design. So I encourage everybody, and I know that Sarah, I hope you were able to grab that PDF and add it into the chat for folks. But don't be a stranger. Reach out. We all, like Julie and I, really deeply care about education because we know how hard it is for you. So please reach out. We're both happy to be a resource.
Yep. Thank you, Jacqueline. Absolutely. You know, what we really are inspired to do is to help families through these tough conversations. And many of these conversations don't necessarily they don't flow naturally, you know. And I just know this from my experience. Excuse me, my personal experience with my mom, because I know prior to her having her event, her healthcare deteriorate so substantially so quickly, I really tried to find out, Mom, what's important to you? You know, when if you can't make decisions for yourself anymore, what do you want me to do for you, and how can I best help you? And she was very resistant. And so I think that if people can really think about, um, you know, getting support and having these really important, honest, and open conversations with family. And by the way, just be prepared. It might be a little bumpy at first, but understand that it's so important that you persevere, and ultimately it'll bring everyone closer when you're able to ask these questions. And you know what I always try to coach people to do, it's not simple, but lead with your heart, lead with your being authentically caring and wanting to do the right thing for your family, and also wanting your family to do the right thing by you, and just having these open and honest conversations um, only lead to closer families, closer friends, and really better planning and better outcomes. So
Yeah.
thank you so much, Jacqueline. Thank you for, you're an inspirational leader in general, women in healthcare. I admire you very much. I admire what you do. You're leading the way. You're helping people that if you weren't around would be struggling. So I'm very, you know, proud to be connected with you and everything that you do and your organization. Thanks for being a guest.
Same. And everybody take care. Have a wonderful weekend. And thank you, Julie and the team at Open Arms, for having me.
Our pleasure.